Hi there everyone, how are we doing? We are at the start of a brand new season. That brilliant feeling you get before the first weekend of the season when everyone's hopes are possible and the rest of the season will tell whether that happens or not, and that is an absolutely terrible intro, so we'll move on quickly. We've got John on with us today. John, so much news happening. We've got the brand new season. We had Ange coming back today. A major departure at Celtic announced. There's loads of transfer stuff happening. No shortage of talking points.
Yes, exciting times. Probably the busiest day news-wise we've had at Celtic for a while. All combined with the fact that we've got Mark Hendry on 67 Hail Hail. That's news in itself.
A big dog, a pure big dog in the Celtic transfer. He's shaking his head. I don't know why he's doing that. He's Mark Hendry, deputy editor at Football Scotland. Possibly, and I don't want to offend anyone else, but possibly the go-to guy now for Celtic transfer news. Mark, thank you for taking some time out of your day to join us. How are you getting on?
Good, mate. Thanks for having me. It's exciting to be here.
Tell us a little bit about what a transfer window is like for someone like yourself.
Hello, you got. No, it's busy, but it's good fun. You know what it's like when you, even as a supporter, when you grow up, all you want to know is who's coming in, and my nosiness is really just that's all that's sort of got stronger. So for me during the window, it's chaotic at times. It's a lot of phone calls being made, a lot of WhatsApps getting dinged. But no, it's good. It's good when you get something and you get a breaking news story and an exclusive story. There's nothing better, as I'm sure you'll understand.
Would you have the I don't know, guts, the wherewithal to do that as a job, phoning people, not getting replies, people hanging up on you, John?
Maybe my ego's a bit too fragile for all that part. in all seriousness, it's good, a lot of people, the mainstream media, so to speak, as Celtic fans like to talk about, is often a target. I think for us at 6-7 Hail Hail, we've always been of the opinion that we're not at war with those outlets, and in fact, good coverage of Celtic combines mainstream outlets, emerging digital outlets like Football Scotland and the fan media stuff. So when it all works together hand in hand and reporters like Mark are getting information out there, then I think it's good for supporters because then we can digest it, discuss it and give opinion on it, which is what people like as well at the end of the day. So I'm all for it. I don't think I'm the type of person that will be delivering scoops anytime soon, but I certainly appreciate them when they come along to give us kind of an insight on the direction Celtic are travelling in.
Yes, we'll get on to the transfer stuff possibly near the end of this video. The main story today, I think it's probably the main story, is that Ian Bankier, the Celtic chairman, is to stand down as a director and chairman of the club at the end of the year. Had you heard anything about this, Mark, prior to it breaking?
No, if I'm completely honest, it kind of caught me off guard a wee bit. As I'm sure it caught a lot of Celtic supporters off guard. Mr. Bankier seemed as if he had, an intention to stay and to stay for a while. You could argue that he maybe even dug his heels in a wee bit in a bid to stay at the last AGM, certainly if that was anything to go by. But no, it certainly took me by surprise, and as I'm sure it took a lot of, as I say, Celtic supporters by surprise.
Were you surprised, John, and what, I know you didn't want to linger too much on Bankier himself, but what was your general thoughts when the news came through?
It surprised me just in terms of the timing of the announcement, it just came out of the blue almost. I feel like the tea leaves on Bankier for a while have suggested that you might be heading towards, there's been lots of rumours over the last few months. You don't know how much to read into them. For me, it's less of a surprise that he's moving on, but more just the time of it and how it just came out of the blue with nobody really picking up on it before the actual announcement. But he's never really been the most forward-facing guy for me. He's always been a bit of a figure behind the scenes, a bit of a, I wouldn't say anonymous character, but certainly someone that you don't hear of from a lot. Now, I'm not an expert on corporate governance, and I wouldn't pretend to be. I know that that's mainly what his role involves in terms of corralling the board, etc. For me, it's an opportunity for Celtic to kind of switch direction in terms of who the next chair or chairperson is. and that's not necessarily meaning that they need to totally rip it up and start again. But for me, I just think it's a good opportunity to put someone in there who perhaps is a little bit more relatable to the support, who is perhaps a bit more forthcoming with communication. These are the things that I want to see from that chairman role, alongside all his corporate responsibilities, which I don't really have an insight to, and maybe we'll get a guest on 6-7 Hail Hail over the next few weeks who can give us more of an insight into what Celtic might be looking for from the next chair. But in terms of a relationship with the support, I think we need someone who is far more relatable and isn't almost like a distant, behind the curtain sort of figure. I don't think it needs to be like that. I think Celtic can be more forward thinking with their communication and have grown up conversations with supporters. I think there needs to be an element of trust there on both sides for that to happen. And I think, as we've seen over the last 12 months, I think Celtic are at their most powerful when people, the club and the supporters are working together hand in hand rather than in opposition to each other. And I just felt like Bankier was always a person who felt like he was working. It might just be perception, but I always felt like he was kind of at odds with the Celtic support. So I think it should be a bit more open and transparent moving forward. I think it's a good opportunity to do that. But whether the club actually will do that, or that's me just being naive, is another matter.
Yeah, it was that day when Ange and Don Mackay were unveiled to the world, basically, and Bankier was involved in the first press conference with Mark's lot, the traditional media upstairs, and then when he came downstairs, there was no Ian Bankier. I always just thought from that point it was always going to be difficult for him to kind of recover from effectively, in my opinion, kind of hiding away from the support that day. Obviously, the season that they just come off the back of had been a well-documented disaster. So, yeah, I felt like the writing was on the wall as well. I think everyone did, to be honest. From what I hear, that last AGM that Mark referred to was a bit of a shambles from Bankier's point of view. I think we covered that at the time. And hopefully from now on, Celtic can move in a positive direction. We're definitely doing it on the pitch. From what I understand, speaking to some people that, inside the club and people who have had dealings with people at the club recently, Ange is running the football side completely. Every single, decision, every single appointment to do with the football side of the club, Ange Postecoglou is having a say on, and in most cases is having the final say on, which I think, given what we know about Ange so far, all of us would be pretty happy with. I think the actual running of the club as a business, if you want to use that, again, from what I understand, speaking to some people, Michael Nicholson and Chris Mackay, the finance director, are doing that between the two of them. Nicholson, I think we already can see, isn't going to be a chief executive who puts himself in the limelight. He's very different to Peter Lawwell in that way. And that's not a bad thing. I mean, I think I've heard him speak once, do one interview, maybe around the AGM. Again, that's not a bad thing. I'm happy with that as long as the club's been running the right way. And I think for me personally, what I want from a chair person is someone to come in and to put the club forward in a positive light, to lead us into meetings, to put Scottish football forward in a positive light as well. I think that's important. And all of that stuff you said as well, John, having that relationship with the fans, and just looking at the whole thing in a positive light. It just felt as if, off the back of that horrid season, that from that point Celtic and Bankier especially were in kind of firefighting mode, and he probably still is, and hopefully now, a fresh start is exactly what we need.
Yeah, I feel like he's potentially been in a firefighting mode for much of his tenure. I don't think it's even the last couple of years. I think, the Celtic support have never been fully on board with Bankier, I would suggest, and there's many reasons for that. A lot of it's fair, a lot of it might be unfair. I just think it's a good opportunity for Celtic to move in a different direction, and perhaps have a little bit more independence from just project a bit more personality and a bit more vision into the club and communicate that. Now, whether that will be the case remains to be seen. I just think that this will be. I think many Celtic supporters will welcome this move, I would suggest, but it all depends on what the club do now. If they're just going to appoint someone who just feels and acts and projects it being above it all and so distant from the supporters, I just think that will be another waste of what a chairperson could be. So I guess we'll see.
Yeah, we'll move on from that because there's loads to get into. Ange's press conference today. Did we see this, guys? What did we think of it? Have you caught any of it, Mark?
Yeah, I got a chance just before I finished up. Seemed to talk a lot of sense. Looked to be excited about the season coming up. I mean, he's not one for giving anything away really. Quite coy with his answers. Quite from a journalistic standpoint, maybe a wee bit snippy at times, but that's all part of the entertainment, isn't it? But no, he seems to be looking forward to it, and he addressed sort of quite a few issues, which I'm sure supporters would have appreciated.
Mark, how is Ange perceived amongst your colleagues, in terms of the press in general, with those snippy remarks and what some of his one-liners? Do people in your profession, do they resent that, or do they just think it's all part of the patter?
No, I think it's all part of the patter. To be honest, I think coming over as an Australian as well, he's quite similar to your Glaswegian cheeky chappy, if you want to call it that. But I don't know if you'd appreciate me saying that, but no, I think, especially from a digital point of view, it's a goldmine. Sometimes when he says certain things, you can have a chuckle, but also you can do well traffic wise. So no, depending on how you're looking at it, I always enjoy his press conferences. I think he's quite funny at times. He can be smart. He can be, as I say, snippy, but it's all part of the job. He's got information, if you want to call it that, to protect. He's got his players, his squad to look after, and certain questions aren't going to be sort of suffered from. Don't think he suffers fools at all, which in a management job, when you're stressed out your nut for how many weeks of the year, he's entitled to say what he wants to say, and if he wants to be a wee bit standoffish, then fair dues.
Yeah. One thing he was asked about today, and he did give, quite a forthright answer, was Mikey Johnston. It sounds like he is going to be loaned out, just reading between the lines of what Andrew said. I think he said that Mikey Johnston, he feels he needs a change of environment, which I think is what a lot of people feel. I certainly feel that way, that Mikey Johnston could just do with getting away from Celtic Park for a season. It might actually be good to get away from Scotland, and I think Standard Liège have been mentioned, other European teams after him as well. Do you agree with that, John? I mean, it seems like a good thing. We're not going to badly miss Mikey Johnston, I would suggest, this season if he does move away on loan.
Yeah, I mean, we covered Mikey Johnston a few weeks ago, and almost in a way that we felt almost sorry for him. I think he gets a lot of criticism from Celtic supporters, and I think sometimes it goes over the top. Sometimes supporters don't say what they mean even. Sometimes I feel like fans say something over the top when they just mean it might be better for him to move on, or it might be better for him to go for a loan. There's quite a lot of extreme language with regards to Mikey Johnston that people use a lot of the time. I don't think it's his fault he hasn't progressed in perhaps the way that he would have liked at Celtic, or Celtic would have liked from him. Yeah, as Ange said today, a lot of injuries are to do with that. A lot of issues. I think at the moment it just does feel like there's too much of a drop-off between what someone like Jota or Maeda would offer Celtic and what Johnston can give. And so in that scenario, it feels like a good move for him to get away. And maybe he just needs to get away for a while and be his own man for a while, because I don't think he's enjoying it. I don't think he's enjoying the glare of the Celtic support on him at the moment. That's just the impression I get from afar. And maybe if he can get away and just focus on his football on a week-to-week basis, that is the best thing.
Because he'll go away, if he has a really good season, he'll come back, and I think it'll effectively be a fresh start for him, because supporters forget very quickly. And if we're getting fed, social media clips of Mikey Johnston scoring great goals in Belgium or whatever, supporters will kind of be excited about that very quickly. Any indication, Mark, on where he could go at all? Are you hearing anything about Mikey Johnston?
All I'm hearing is that there's a lot of clubs looking for him. A lot. And I don't think there's any surprise. I mean, when Mikey Johnston's on his game, anytime I've watched him, he's been really impressive. I think he can beat a man, he can score a goal, he can create a chance, So I'm not surprised. It's just a shame for him that with injury and now multi-million-pound players ahead of him in the pecking order, he's just not going to get a chance, is he? And at 23 years old as well, that's sort of prime development time in your career as a young footballer. Arguably, he should have already hit that first team role if he was really supposed to kick on. but Standard Liège have definitely been mentioned. I think you'd be surprised that there might be one or you might not be surprised, but maybe one or two Scottish clubs as well that are keeping a keen eye. I think I saw there was a pundit mentioned potentially Hibs. I don't think that would be incorrect to say.
McGeady's injured now, isn't he? So might
Yeah,
make
and
sense.
I'm not breaking any news here or anything, but I believe that he might well be on a sort of long list of Hibs targets. So that could be one to keep an eye on. But I think there's going to be a sort of mini battle for him this summer. I would imagine.
Yes, Blake getting in touch with the nation there as well, saying Mikey Johnston has potential, but just not hitting the next level. The chat seems very quiet tonight. Are we all just having a wee beer or maybe a soft drink and not bothering? Get battering away on your thoughts on what's going on. Mikey Johnston, Ange Postecoglou, Celtic new season, slag John off, whatever you want to do. Let's make this a nice interactive video because we don't often do a Friday night. Anything else, John, from Ange's press conference that you took?
No, just the squad updates in terms of injuries, etc. I mean, I think it was known from the photos today, but Carl Starfelt's back in training. Moritz Jens is training despite rumours of an injury for him earlier in the week. I think Starfelt and Ideguchi are the only ones confirmed to be ruled out for Sunday. Ideguchi also picked up an injury earlier in the week in training.
A gash in his leg.
Gash in his leg. Apparently, it's going to be a few weeks.
How does that keep you out for 2 weeks?
I heard that it was like I think he collided with something at training, perhaps one of the training dummies or something, and he got a cut in his leg. I think if he's had to get loads of stitches for it, Hamish, it could take a few weeks for it just to heal.
Yeah, I'm an idiot with all medical matters, so just
I'm speaking
me.
like I'm a doctor now. I have no idea whatsoever, but that's just what I'm putting together two and two. Yeah, so it just sounds like Ange is ready to go. I think he was at pains to stress that it's kind of like pre-season didn't really matter now. Like it's just all about Sunday and beyond, which is what you would expect. I think he's too hesitant to put too much of a positive spin on pre-season because it can almost put pressure on the early results. So I guess we'll see how we're playing on Sunday and get going from there. I think Starfelt will take a little bit of time to get up to speed, and we'll see what the defensive pairing is on Sunday. I mean, at this point, it does look like it's going to be Carter Vickers and Stephen Welsh, which is also interesting in the context of reports of Celtic turning down loan offers and loan to buy offers from France, etc.
Anything on that, Mark? Stephen Welsh?
Yeah, there was contact. I don't think it was exactly $3.5 million. I think the fee was maybe slightly less than that, which is their prerogative. But there was definitely contact. There had been contact before. I'm sure you saw last week or maybe a fortnight ago. But at that stage, it was only a conversation. It was only an approach. There was no money laid down on the table or anything like that. But now, this last few days, there's been more of a concrete offer. But I think Ange wants to keep him. I think he likes him. I think he's brought in Moritz Jens, obviously on loan with a view to buy, but he wants sort of four central defenders at the very least. So I don't think Welsh was. I'd be highly surprised if he went anywhere this summer at all.
Mark, the Moritz Jens one's interesting, because I remember you reported last summer when you were at a different newspaper group that Celtic were in from the Swiss team that you played for, Lausanne. It's interesting that we kind of went back to him this summer after it didn't work out. I don't know if you know, but was it like Celtic's choice not to pursue him last summer, or was it the player, deciding that he wanted to move to France?
That's a good question. I'm not 100% sure on that, because I believe that, I don't know if it's a case of he thought Ligue 1 might have been a bit more competitive for him. Maybe they offered a bit more money. I really don't know, but there was definite interest from Celtic back then, and I think they were willing to buy him outright, which obviously they're willing to do next season or at the end of this season if things go well. But as far as whether it was Celtic's decision or Jens's decision, I'm not 100% sure.
I know when we spoke to the Swiss what was he
Scout.
again? Scout. I was going to go with agent. Scout. And he reckoned that Jens had decided to go to France rather than Celtic. But who knows? In terms of transfers, people are probably itching to know, Mark. 6 players in so far this summer. 7 if you include Maida, but I'm not, so it's 6. What are you hearing about Celtic transfers? Can we expect more business, think, between now and September the 1st? This whole video is just us asking Mark questions now, John.
I'm fine with that. No, so at risk of developing the reputation of being sort of the man who shoots down Celtic speculation, from what I'm hearing, right as of this moment in time, there's nothing sort of in the pipeline. There's nothing in the works. I think ideally, probably Ange Postecoglou and the recruitment team would like maybe another striker, maybe. I think they would probably like another centre half just to be safe. The central defensive mid issue has obviously reared its head quite a bit this summer. They were definitely in for Vinicius Souza, and that didn't pan out. As far as Fausto Vera, forgive me if I'm pronouncing that wrong, which I probably am, but as far as he was concerned, there was a name that had done the rounds within the club. He was definitely a name that had been mentioned. But I don't think interest or movement got as far as maybe other reports had said that it had. But as of the time of this video going out, I don't expect there to be anything within the next however long. I think it'll be more movement out the door as opposed to in the door, which again is probably expected. I think fans might have predicted that before before the season ended last season. So more outgoings than incomings, but you just never know. I mean, I think Matt O'Reilly came in January when there maybe wasn't expectations of another signing.
Well, Ange had said a week before, no, I'm not signing anyone.
So he kind of bucked that trend. So you never know, especially with Postecoglou. He keeps his cards close to the chest. So we'll see.
What does your gut tell you, John? Do you think we'll maybe see one more?
I think, like Mark says, I think it depends. We've still got Alban Ayeti and Christopher Julian. For Celtic, I don't think looking from the outside, I don't think it's even about the transfer fees that would need to be spent. I just don't think they want to stock up on the wage side of things. And I think when you've got players like Julian and Ajeti, earning decent money at Celtic, I like the justification for bringing in another striker on top of that is hard to sell. I think would probably, especially if there's not like a standout candidate to come in. The aspect about Celtic this summer that interests me most is what Mark touched on there in terms of the midfield position, because it felt like Souza and Vera had very specific profiles in terms of being a different type of midfielder that Celtic had currently. And we went for Moy in the end. It just feels like we've not really filled the jigsaw piece puzzle of what Vinicius Souza might have offered Celtic as that kind of mobile, disruptive defensive midfielder. So that just feels like something that's incomplete almost for me. So I'm not sure if it's just because Souza had a very specific outstanding profile that the club wanted to try and bring in and capitalise on, and whether Celtic are just hoping that a player who has a specific profile like that comes up in a kind of affordable fashion. That feels like a missing piece of the puzzle for me. Again, another versatile attacker, like everyone is saying. I'm not saying anything other Celtic fans aren't thinking, but I think maybe just someone to provide more options across that front line, especially if a Johnston moves out on loan and a Jetty moves out in some capacity. I think we would need someone else in there. So I'm certainly hopeful that we're going to bring maybe one or two in, but like as has been said and has been said a lot, I think it does depend on outgoings. And I think Ange even, he alluded to that in his press conference today when he kind of said that, there could be outgoings and then that leads to the potential of incomings, but that nothing's set in stone in either regard. So it feels like a wait and see situation at the moment. But Ange's play was kind of happy today in the sense that he was saying, I feel like I've done the crucial bits of business and strengthening the squad. I think a lot of Celtic supporters would maybe tell you that it feels like what we can still do with one or two more. So hopefully that's Ange just been quite diplomatic about it publicly, and we can maybe push for one or two more.
I guess as supporters, we're always hoping for the most perfect window, and sometimes you need to remember, the issues with wages and stuff like that. And we do, as much as we've moved on quite a lot of kind of fringe players this window, and I think we've done a lot of good work there, both in terms of mainly loans actually. I think there are still maybe 2 or 3 there that you've touched on that we could do with getting out. And Blake again getting in touch, Ayeti out, new striker in, Johnson out on loan, new winger for the right wing competition, CDM enforcer is a must for Europe, make us solid all round. So not asking for too much there, Blake, but if Ange can sort all that out, that would be perfect. Right, new season starts tomorrow, guys. We need to wait a day and a bit later to take on Aberdeen 4:30 on Sunday. Shaping up to be quite a good season, I would suggest, in terms of the business that Scottish teams have done. I think there's a lot to be excited about. It feels to me, just with all the European stuff, and I'm well aware I'm saying this a day after Motherwell got gubbed 3-0 to a mid-table Irish side on aggregate, but it does feel as if Scottish football is going through a bit of a boom period at the moment, and I think that's been reflected in some of the signings that have been made this summer. Now, I've picked out 10 for you right now that have just kind of caught my eye over the course of the summer. I'll read them out. Bojan Miovski, who is signed for Aberdeen from MTK Budapest. Now, the interesting bit about that is they've paid just over £500,000 for him, which is pretty unheard of for Aberdeen. Stephen Fletcher has joined Scottish football again, signing for Dundee United a good month ago from Stoke City. Dylan Levitt, the really impressive Dylan Levitt from Dundee United last season, has signed for them. And he signed for them permanently as well, which I didn't actually realise. I thought it was another loan, but that's a big statement of intent from Dundee United, those 2 deals. Lawrence Shankland, who I think is kind of a bit overhyped sometimes, but he has joined Hearts from Beershot. David Marshall, the former Celtic goalkeeper, and Aidan McGeady, the former Celtic winger, have both signed for Hibs. Ismail Gonçalves, who you may remember from, I think, St Mirren and Hearts in years gone by, has joined Livingston. Ben Davies, a name you'll certainly remember from not too long ago, has signed for Rangers from Liverpool. Jan Danda, who I think is going to be a name to watch this season, a player from Swansea City recently. I think he was like a pretty regular featurer for Swansea City season before last, has signed for Ross County, which seems like one of many good signings they've made. And finally, another former Celtic player, Graham Carey, who was doing really well in Bulgaria. I think he may have scored against Roma in the Conference League last season, has signed for St Johnstone. So plenty happening there. There's loads of other ones as well if you have a proper look. But quite exciting, Mark. I mean, it's always a day before the start of the season. You're signing up to fantasy football leagues and predictor leagues and all of this stuff. But it is exciting, even more exciting, I would suggest, this year.
Yeah, it is. And it's one of those ones, isn't it, where after a pre-season, every club feels really optimistic about where they are, where they're going. I think maybe only Motherwell can sort of maybe put a pin in that, and maybe my hometown club, Greenock Morton, who are very threadbare in the Championship. But no, the pre-season thing, the new signings sort of bump, if you want to call it that, brings optimism, brings excitement, no matter which club you support. And I think the Scottish Premiership this season is going to be really exciting, one way or another, because I think we're going to have a title race. Dare I say it? My apologies, lads. But I think we're going to have a title race, a close title race. And the European places are going to be very exciting to see who competes for those. Whether Hibs can fix themselves after the start to their campaign, whether Dundee United can, maintain their form from last season. If Aberdeen can push, so it's an exciting league this year.
I think Dundee United would probably be my ones to watch from the kind of rest of the league. John, what were you thinking?
I feel like that is the case. It depends, how Jack Ross takes to it with United and how that relationship develops, and they're all in synergy with their support and everything. Very emotive club, Dundee United at times. So if they're in harmony, there could be something to watch. Like you said there, I really like the look of Dylan Levitt. It's interesting that they've managed to. I know it's only that he signed a 2-year deal at United, and so it's hardly a long-term thing. But I think it is just a good sign of intent for them. It's certainly very crowd-pleasing for their support. And he was really good last season on loan. And, his winning caps with Wales. Likewise, Aberdeen signing a couple of internationals who are winning caps. And a clutch of other clubs kind of signing Australian players who are not necessarily winning caps with Australia yet, but are kind of on the cusp and maybe see Scotland as a stepping stone to impressing in that regard. Keanu Bacchus at St Mirren, for example. There's been interesting signs across the board. I'm glad you brought that up, Hamish, because I didn't know you were going to, and it was going to be something I did say. Like, it does feel like a few Scottish clubs are getting their act together, and it'll be interesting to see how the league pans out. If it's stronger in some sort of capacity, would be great. I think, as Mark touched on there, like, I'm not afraid to say, like, I think Rangers will be decent competition for Celtic this season. I don't see Rangers going off the rails, don't see Celtic going off the rails, and so the natural conclusion is that it will probably be a pretty tight title race. I think it can be true that both Celtic and Rangers have had pretty good transfer windows, relative to what their intent was going into the windows, and I think that is the case. Like, I'm not, scared of Rangers, but at the same time, I wouldn't be surprised if they're pretty consistent in the league this season. So, certainly interesting times ahead. As much as I'm looking forward to seeing Celtic, get on the pitch and proving that they are moving in the right direction as well. As you say, Aberdeen have been in good form, albeit in the League Cup, but I think arriving at Celtic Park, having played 4 games, scored 12 goals, not conceded any, regardless of the level of opposition, is going to fill them with confidence. For me personally, hoping it's false confidence in the end, but it'll be interesting to see how they shape up and have a go at Celtic on Sunday, or whether, they kind of sit in and do the old routine of trying to frustrate us.
Yeah, Scott McDonald seemed to reckon that because it's the first game of the season, they will probably be a little bit more adventurous just by the very nature of it being the start of the season. We'll leave all of that chat, I think, for tomorrow. We've got a proper preview coming, me and Asim from Celtic Park, just in front of the new, basically the Callum McGregor stand now. Certainly the outside of it in terms of him lifting up the league trophy. So that'll be coming tomorrow at some stage. But now the main point, as you know, we've been going through the various members of 67 Hail Hail and getting some predictions ahead of the new season. Mark, you can take part in this if you want, mate. If you don't, we won't hold it against you too much. John, I think you've been having a wee think about this. Celtic player of the year / player to shine. What are you thinking?
This is not controversial at all. I mean, I just think Reo Hatate looks like he might be the player that can step up a level this season. I just love the look of him, like the way he plays football, the way he shapes his body and the way he interacts with teammates and passes the ball about. It's just pleasing for me to watch. I was saying to someone else earlier today that since I was a wee boy, I've always been a fan of midfield players that can really run a game. And I got that impression. I know it was a pre-season friendly. Norwich weren't as tight to us as some of the Scottish Premiership teams will be. But I just really like the look of him this season. I hope he can stay consistent. For me, that would be an early, outside shite for Player of the Year. But I still feel like Kyogo is like our best player and has the most potential to be the most devastating to opponents over the course of the next 12 months. So, either one of those, I'll probably say Reo Hatate and go for that.
Any thoughts, Mark, on who could shine for Celtic this season?
Yeah, when in Rome, why not? On Football Scotland, we have our predictions article that you can go and check out later, of course, after you're finished with 67 Hail. Matt O'Reilly for me. The guy is slick. He seems to have just about everything that Celtic would want in a player. His range of passing is fantastic. He can thread a whatever the phrase is, through a needle. It's not as if I need words for my job or anything. No, he seems like he could put his slippers on and be man of the match in every single game. He's got an eye for goal as well, and I think alongside Reo Hatate and his mouth guard, that'll be a very interesting pairing in the midfield for Celtic this season.
Interesting, Stevie. We've got Stevie's predictions here as well, and he's gone for Matt O'Reilly as well. Interesting that nobody's mentioned Jota. John?
No, I mean, I think there's no reason not to pick Jota. I think, there was a little bit of a question mark after his injury last season, like in terms of consistency. I think Jota will be very pleasing this season. If Jota can stay consistent in terms of his output of goals and assists, etc., I think he's got every chance of being Player of the Year. I think, honestly, speaking, I think there's 5 or 6 candidates for that. So although Jota's not been mentioned by us, I mean, he's just as much chance as anyone for me.
Yeah, we should say, everyone, let us know both in the live chat and if you're watching afterwards, especially if you're watching afterwards, because come the end of the season I can go back and see what people have said and see if anyone can get the Nostradamus title. Surprise package, John.
A lot of people have shoehorned or fitted Aaron Moy into the James McCarthy role this season already. I think he might surprise people and be far more influential than perhaps has been said over the initial weeks of his arrival. I'm not saying he's going to be a player of the year or anything, but I just think he might play a more substantial role than people realise. And I think he might have the chops to be able to do that on a consistent basis for Celtic. I think he'll be more effective for us than McCarthy. I think you'll get plenty of minutes in the Celtic team this season when you look at the amount of minutes that someone like Neil Beaton got last season. I think naturally you'll just have a more influential role than some people realise. So if we're talking about surprise packages, it might be Aaron Moy for me.
Okay. Mark?
Surprise package is a tough one because, I mean, the entire Celtic squad seem to, have a bit about them and already have proven it. Anthony Ralston probably have another good season. Obviously, probably behind Juranovic in the pecking order, which is fair enough. Juranovic is a top class right back. If Carl Starfelt could score a goal, Celtic fans might consider him to be the surprise package this season. But I'll go with Tony Ralston.
That could have been my big prediction for the season. Carl Starfelt to actually break his duck and score a goal. Big season prediction, John. This is the one that is definitely going to be revisited in 10 months.
I think Celtic will have at least 6 points in the Champions League group stages. That's my bold prediction for the season. Not in a kind of false confidence way. I know how difficult it's going to be. I think 6 points in the Champions League would be phenomenal in the context of what the Champions League is now. I know that's quite a bold statement, but maybe a points total that gets us third in the group and into the Europa League, I think would be good, and I think we can do it. A lot of people seem to be setting Celtic up for doom in the Champions League this season, and I understand why a lot of people feel like that. I just think we might be more surprising on that front than some people realise, and getting 5 or 6 points and third would be a real achievement for me. So that would be my kind of bolder prediction for the season.
6 draws.
6 draws. I mean, however they come, mate. However they come.
Mark?
Put me on the spot.
This is a tough one.
I know. I don't know. Not to sell any other key men at all.
Okay, that'd be good.
I'm really not sure. I don't see them getting 6 points in the Champions League, if I'm being totally honest, John. My apologies for that, but
yeah.
I think money in the Champions League and the strength of foreign clubs these days is just insane. So let's just say let's just go. They won't have to sell any of their starting 11 this season.
That's ITK knowledge, everyone. He's hinting at something there. He knows that no one's going to be sold.
I wish.
Right, Stevie, just in the other two for Stevie, surprise package, Benjamin Siegrist. Reckon unlike Zaluska to Boric, Seegers, as he's calling him, will really come up big for us when we need him. And this is brilliant. Big season prediction. This will be the season when we see a dodgy penalty given in a derby game and the outcry will last for months. Note, there has not been a penalty given in a league game in a derby since April 2017, I believe. That would be pretty. That's the most Stevie prediction ever. A referee-based dodgy decision. I'm just surprised it's in Celtic's favour.
I'm not getting into a referee chat before the season's even begun. Just
too
not
controversial for me. No, thank you.
Oh, Stevie, what do you like? Stevie will be with us after the game on Sunday, as will Asim, so we're looking forward to that. Yeah, big preview coming tomorrow, guys, so we'll leave it there for now and cover the game itself tomorrow. Mark, it's been great to have you on. I know you've got plans this evening, so we'll let you go. Thanks very much.
No, thanks for having me on. It was good fun.
Brilliant, John. We'll catch up with you soon.
Yes, we certainly will. Thanks to Mark. Thanks to you, Hamish. See everyone on the channel next time I'm on.
Yes, everyone, thanks for tuning in tonight, whether you watched us live or afterwards. Don't forget to give us a sub as we go for, I think, 32,000 at this stage. As I say, we will speak to you tomorrow. Catch you then.